Welcome to Andy Staples on 3, your draft recap edition. Happy Friday, everybody. We were up late last night watching the first round of the NFL draft, watching some of our favorite college players get to shake Roger Goodell's hand, hug Roger Goodell, lift Roger Goodell into the air. If we're talking about, I believe it was Amarius Mims that lifted him. No, Mims was not there. Somebody lifted him very high into the air. It was one of the offensive tackles, and it was it was J.C. Latham. J.C. Latham grabbed Roger Goodell like he was a baby and lifted him into the air. It was tremendous. But the story of last night was Michael Penix Jr. going at number 8 to the Falcons, who just signed Kirk Cousins. Michael Penix Jr., we followed his career, obviously, in depth. From being committed to Butch Jones at Tennessee, getting cut loose by Jeremy Pruitt, going to Indiana, doing that 2-point conversion where he stretched out to beat Penn State in 2020, getting hurt every single year he's in Indiana, then going to Washington, putting it all together with Kalen DeBoer, taking the Huskies to the national title game. And now he's an Atlanta Falcon. And our guy, Phillip Dukes, you know him, you love him, host of Dukes the Scoop on the On 3 Recruits channel. He's a lifelong Falcons fan. Lifelong. Grew up with the Falcons, has been tortured by the Falcons for years. And he had some thoughts on this pick.
First and foremost, Michael Penix, welcome to Atlanta. I think you're a great quarterback. I absolutely hope you ball out. Welcome to the A. You want to slide to Magic City, to the Flame, lemon pepper wings, whatever, the lamb chops. We can even go to the Cheetah, my boy. I don't know what you're into, but hey, it's whatever. Welcome to the city. Because when I see kids in the grocery store cutting up, I don't get mad at the kid. I get mad at the parent. So I'm not mad at you, Michael Penix. You doing what you're supposed to do. I'm not going to hate on you. Welcome to Atlanta. With that being said, what the are we doing? What in the are we doing? Falcons. I don't got time. I'm 41. I've been a Falcons fan since I can remember. Bro, I don't got time. My daddy, 81. You feel me? He's 81. He just said he putting his money back in his pocket. He said he going on a trip. He ain't going to no Falcons games this year. This insane. Bro, we haven't had a guy that can consistently get us sacks in years. I don't care. You could have got another cornerback. You could have traded down, got 2 impact players on defense. You know what we did? We went and planned for the future. Well, guess what? We don't have a past. You know what our past is? Our past is 28-3. Our past is building a dome on old churches so we got bad mojo, whatever you call it. But guess what? The Falcons, hold my beer. I listened to 92.9 the game this morning. Every caller that called in said the least pick needed was a quarterback. That was the absolute worst pick you could have had. And guess what? The Falcons, you did it. You did it again.
We now welcome Phillip Dukes. Follow him at Dukes the Scoop. He's still bad. What's up, Dukes?
Man, I've been up all night, man. I done watched every Michael Penix highlight I could watch. I think he's a phenomenal quarterback. Just not for the Falcons right now. But yeah, what's up, man?
This is tremendous. We got Zach in the chat. Penix is a good QB, and Cousins won't last in Atlanta longer than 2 years. So it could work out like Jordan Love has with the Packers behind Rodgers. Except, because this was the talking point that the Falcons sent out last night. This was the talking point. And that, I would argue, is somewhat correct. Jordan Love has worked out with the Packers. But do we forget what happened with the Packers between Jordan Love getting drafted and Aaron Rodgers leaving for the Jets? That would be losing in the playoffs when they had a team that they thought could compete for the Super Bowl. What if that team had one more receiver that they could have drafted instead of Jordan Love? That, I believe, is where you're at, Mr. Dukes.
I just don't feel like the Falcons are that far ahead in the game for them to be making future choices. That's like saying, that's like me riding down P Street, excuse me, running into a homeless man who needs to eat right now today. Me giving him $5 and him putting it in his pocket and saying, you know what? I'm gonna use that 5 years down the line. It's gonna appreciate an interest. No, bro, you gotta eat today.
Well,
Today
I'm gonna put that 5 in a nice CD.
Yeah, yeah, like what? Like we don't have time to be doing that. First of all, it's like the Falcons are a 4th or 5th grade team, and they're barely getting fractions right. We just start understanding decimals, and then you do a couple of decimal equations, and then you wake up and say, I'm ready for algebra 3. Like, no, you're not. You don't have time. You don't have the capacity. This is not an algebra 3 situation. The Packers had something that the Falcons don't. You know what the Packers had? The Packers had a Super Bowl under their belt already. Talk about the Chiefs. The Chiefs had a better playoff history than the Falcons. There were guys who had more of a resume for being able to do this. The Falcons have no business trying to. You gonna use the Packers model? Really? Bro, the Falcons literally have not won anything of significance since the NFC Championship in 2016, 2017. They haven't done it. Man, it's been 6-7 years, bro. Look, let me show you something. You know how much I paid for these tennis shoes? These are the Falcons Grail Dion's. I paid $600 for these. Why? Because I had to be the freshest person to be at the Super Bowl party because we were going to win it. You know what we did? I wasted $500-600 on these tennis shoes. Man, bro, then I got these for Christmas that same year. Bro, man, all right. Sorry, Andy. Go ahead.
I'm just letting you cook. That's all. I do want to add, because in your video, you had a very impressive list of things that the Falcons, like the Falcons history, 28-3, building the stadium on top of old churches, so they're cursed. I gotta add one that you forgot.
Come on,
Eugene Robinson getting arrested the night before the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Solicitation.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So Atlanta has like their own slang. So I'm not sure if you knew that Falcons fan is really Atlantean or ATLian for pain free. Because that's what we got to be in order for us to continue to do this year after year after year. I need a haircut. I'm not going to the barbershop today. I'm not. I'm going to therapy.
Well, okay. That is the question. Will Atlanta barbershops be empty today because people just don't want to argue about this? They don't want to. Because it feels like it's a universal sentiment among Falcons fans.
I mean, really, you got some Falcons fans that are really diehard, and my heart goes out to them, right? Because they don't have the self-love or the self-care to realize what's going on in reality. And a lot of times when people are in bad mental states, their perception of reality is skewed. So when you think about this, they're like, oh, yeah. So there was a quote I saw on ML Football. I'm not sure if it was true. I had to check it out. But it said that Raheem Morris said if Michael Penix can sit 4 to 5 years, that means we're in a good situation.
Michael Penix will be as old as me if he sits 4 to 5 years.
You go draft the most. To me, he may have been the most NFL-ready quarterback, right? And I think
because he's 24.
Bro, his birthday is May 8th. He will be 24. I know so much about this guy now. Like I read the red. I'm trying to figure out how he ever played DN. I wanted to see if he's ever rushed the passer. I wanted to see how he is in the 40 and can he actually probably run the post. Or
he can run now. He can run.
Man, he can run. He's good, man. But dog, like you know what I'm saying. The best thing we could do with Michael Penix this year is run Philly special. That's it.
Oh my God. This is all right. So you sent me this morning. This is Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons, talking to Terry Fontenot, their GM. What do you think? What do you think Terry Fontenot's saying to Mr. Blank in this video?
Hey, look, Arthur, relax. Look, we got this. Nah, you relax. No. Sorry, Arthur. See, if you look at where our scouting analysts had Penix and where he is, so for next year, that's exactly what he's saying, right? That's exactly what he's saying. But I know, did you see how, like, if you could run that back, there's a couple of things I want to point out.
Sure. All right, here we go.
Look how close Arthur Blank is to him and his shoulders. And when Terry Fontenot moves and gets closer, Arthur doesn't step back. He won't smoke. Look at the guy in the back there. He's laughing like, look at this dumb mother. Like that's how he's looking. like an old mafia movie. Like, man, I promise, dog. If I'm Terry Fontenot, he stood on business. You got to win 10 games this year, guaranteed. You got to get us in the playoffs. So Terry and Raheem, I like all this fly stuff y'all popping. There's an old acronym that we like to use. It's called DDNDS. And the Falcons hate this because they always do it. DDNDS stands for don't do no dumb you know what. Right?
Okay. Yes.
And the Falcons love to go do it. And we talk about that as Falcons fans, like, bro, you go to Falcons with that DDS, they're going to do some, But at the end of the day, when you look at it, how the Falcons are currently constructed, what I will say is this, to their credit, they have a pretty good defensive roster, right? You got a few holes, some glaring holes at pass rusher, but they just did spend some draft equity getting 2 edge rushers a couple of years ago. You got D'Angelo Malone, Evan Keddy. Then you still got a cachet of linebackers. You got a serviceable defensive line. Maybe you bring back Calais Campbell. You got Grady Jarrett just sitting around, And that's another thing I hate, bro. I really want to see an explosive pass rusher get to pair himself with Grady Jarrett while he still has some gas left in the tank. Like what we're missing is we have a team that could have been pushed over the top if you can get to the quarterback. The problem is the Falcons have been in the bottom third of sacks since John Abraham left. John Abraham ain't been here in years. I don't even think Atlantic Station was up when John Abraham was still here. Like, that's how long it's been, dog. So, yeah, I'm a little bit fired
I think he played
up,
with Chris Miller, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, man. I mean, before the Dirty Bird, man, that's when MC Hammer was on the sideline too legit to quit. Come on, bro. It's been a long time.
I also love how Kirk Cousins' media machine went into overdrive last night. Like, Kirk Cousins' agent is talking to everybody. Like, Kirk is very surprised by this. He got no heads up.
Me too, Kirk. You know what? I almost like him better for doing it. A lot of people gave him a lot of flack. It's like, oh, he's coming off an Achilles injury. And yeah, why would you do this? I was able to kind of reconcile that decision based on the fact that they're in a win now. Now with the draft, you can add those pieces. You can get guys. You can get somebody to rush the passer. You can get another wide receiver. You can get a cornerback in the draft. If you pull 3 starters out of this draft, then boom, you got a playoff team, and maybe you get some Falcons magic. I think you still got Taylor Heineke. Like, you got a quarterback. Like, what? Like, you got a backup. Like, bro, what are we doing? And that's exactly what Kirk Cousins said. He's like, bro, what are we doing? The same thing Aaron Rodgers said when he needed that other receiver. Bro, what are we doing? That's the same thing I said last night. I, for all Falcons fans, really hope that this works out. I hope that we go on a magical run this year, a la Detroit last year, where even if you don't get to the pinnacle, getting close makes the city feel good and that brings a positive energy to the city. But right now, this feels a step below 28-3. Everybody got the wind taken out of them last night. I can't wait to go turn on the radio and go listen to everybody go off. And it's just one of those days where being a Falcons fan, where you earn your keep in order to celebrate the loudest when things do go well.
When right before we move off this, I want to ask you this. Where do you think they could have gotten Michael Penix? Because I was surprised. I had reconciled the idea that J.J. McCarthy was going to go to the Vikings. They were going to maybe trade up to get him, which they did. They traded up 1 spot to get him. The Bo Nix to the Broncos thing surprised me. That was shocking. But I think Penix would have been there later. Like, they could have traded back. They might have waited. They might have been able to wait to round 2 to get Penix. Yeah,
I think, and where it is if you think about it, they said the Raiders wanted to move up. They said a couple of teams were trying to move into the top 10. I think Seattle was trying to move into the top 10 as well. And if I'm just reading the tea leaves, it seems like the Falcons got calls, and they said, well, if we're getting all these calls, then maybe we should get the guy. And I think that's kind of how it happened if I were to kind of read the tea leaves and see. But
that's the Raiders making sure Brock Bowers drops to them, baby. That's what that is.
Smoke screen city, right? You got to be able to see through that. So, yeah, I think my thing is this. I really and truly thought Latu was the best defensive player in the draft. I really thought that if you took those injuries away from him, he was a top 2 or top 3 guy. I think the Colts got a steal where they got him at. And I think he's one of those guys over the next 2 years. We're going to be sad about it.
I can tell you right now, Falcons weren't going to pick him because who's the Falcons defensive coordinator? One of our friends from college football. It's Jimmy Lake.
Jimmy Lake from Washington.
Former Washington coach who was Washington's coach when Latu was medically retired. from Washington. So they were never picking him. If you were getting an edge rusher, it was going to be Dallas Turner. But I think you'd have probably
taken
Tina
Turner. Turner. I wouldn't care as long as he got to the quarterback.
Now I'm just imagining Tina Turner rushing the quarterback in those heels.
Well, keep on.
You're simply the best. Oh, we can go deep into her catalog if we want to.
Hey, we can.
Oh, what's a pass set got to do with it? All right, that would died on the vine. I'm sorry, I was trying too hard. All right, let's talk about the rest of this draft because it was a lot of fun seeing those guys. Like I like the surprises at the bottom. I like Ricky Pearsall going to the Niners and Xavier Legette. Yeah. That's I just tweeted out the video of that catch against Charlotte, and then Xavier Legette going to the. Who did he go to? I'm blanking on who Xavier Legette went to at 32, and then I did love Xavier Worthy going to the Chiefs because our guy Anthony Broom from the Wolverine was watching the combine when Xavier Worthy ran his 40, and he said the second run was 4.22. I think 4.21 was the final determination of what he ran. Second one was 4.22. And Anthony Broom tweeted if some of you let the Chiefs get him, may God have mercy on your soul. And the Chiefs got him.
They got him, bro. So what the Chiefs have been missing, what they tried, they were able to piece that together with McCole Hardman and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So now you got a guy who's not just a guy who just runs flies. He can run the whole route tree. When you see him, he has one of the most explosive zigs in short yardage situations. You really cannot put a hand on him in the phone booth. So I think that's really when the Chiefs want to go West Coast with their passing attack and they start to dink and dunk, he's the guy that's going to give you nightmares. So and it's just the Chiefs being the Chiefs doing what they do. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Chiefs doing what they do.
And the Bills traded them the pick. But now I will say there's a bunch of good receivers. And Xavier Legette went to the Panthers, which he's just going up I-77 from Columbia to the Panthers. But there's still A.D. Mitchell out there. There's still Ladd McConkey out there. There's first round quality receivers out.
Deion Coleman get drafted? He's still there.
Deion Coleman did not get drafted yet. So that's another one that could be big. So I think there's a lot. And look, Braden Fisk is still out there at D tackle. If we're talking Florida State guys,
a heck of a combine.
Yeah, Cooper DeJean still out there. If you want a corner, there's all kinds of the top of the second round is going to be nice. So get yourself ready for Friday. Good point from Matthew in the chat. Best pick of the draft. ESPN hired Nick Saban and putting on the ABC set. I learned so much about football and would have listened for another 4 hours. He needs a film study show each week. I was flipping around, so I watched some of Saban. I watched some NFL Network. I watched some of the Pat McAfee show with Bill Belichick. But Saban was awesome. And how about when Quinyon Mitchell gets picked, Saban goes, we wanted him out of the portal, but he wouldn't go in the portal.
Hey, man, I love Coach Saban, dog. I'm an Auburn guy, but, man, Coach Saban is good. And then that moment there was so real to me because they knew. And then when he talked about guys that he actually had the game plan against, hearing him talk about game planning for Jaden Daniels, he just said, man, I was just looking up at the ceiling that night, man. He had me shook. Hearing Nick Saban kind of humanize himself, that was so cool to me because when you think about it, he's probably on the Mount Olympus of coaching, period, not just college coaching. Yeah. So when, hearing him talk about what worried him and what he saw in these players and these draftees, I thought that was awesome and a great pickup by ABC.
Yeah, I was when he was talking about Dallas Turner and a guy he'd coached and played, he was explaining the difference between Dallas Turner and Will Anderson. He was explaining the difference between Dallas Turner and other defensive ends, edge rushers he's had. And he's like, Dallas Turner could be Dante Hightower in another era. And it's oh, okay. Right. Now I understand. Because he's explaining how Dallas Turner can be used differently in the NFL than maybe they used him because they had different needs, different personnel. But that was so much fun hearing him explain all that, explaining what speed to power means, because he used that term a few times, and then Reese Davis was like, okay, what does that term mean? And then he explains it perfectly, like showing with the video, which you think about this, that's what the man did for 40 years is they're showing the video every day to the players. Here's what you're doing wrong. Here's how you fix it. He's great at making that digestible. Like, you understand how he was so good at getting the players to understand what they were doing, because he can make the average person who doesn't really know that much about football understand it in like 5 seconds.
Yeah, you can see why he was so good recruiting, because there's a certain patience in the pace that he uses when he explains. Like, it's almost like he's holding your hand through it. And when you think about Nick Saban, you don't think of, oh, Nick's going to hold my hand. You think about somebody chewing you out. But the way he explains things, like even when he talked about Nate Wiggins last night, and he was saying how Nate had all these tools, and he was like, and he told you what he needed to work on without bashing the kid, right? He's like, hey, man, he has a little stiffness, but I think that could be worked out. Or he said, yeah, he's got to mature just a tad, and I love the way he did that. Go ahead.
There was one, though, I don't know if you noticed it, when Amarius Mims got taken by the Bengals. Nick was like, he took himself out of the SEC championship game. We were wondering what the heck was going on there.
Really, I mean, that's he really gave you insight to what he was thinking. He was like, he took himself out of the game. Like, what was he thinking? This is a guy that we're worried about. And what he told you in so many terms, what he told you without telling you is that, man, do I want a guy who's going to take himself out of those big games? That concerns me. Like, hey, he's a heck of a player. Like, he said it without saying it. He did that a lot last night. And I think that's one of those things that you just pick up with age, like those old sayings and all of those idioms or whatever, however you want to call it. Like, he's really good at saying things without saying them.
Well, and I appreciated, though, that he was willing to be critical, because a lot of times coaches come in and they refuse to be critical. They won't say anything. But you could tell when he was being critical. That was very critical of Amarius Mims. And let's be real here. This is not Amarius Mims' fault that he's a 1-year starting right tackle at Georgia who got drafted in the first round. But the last 1-year starting right tackle at Georgia who got drafted in the first round was Isaiah Wilson. And we all know how that turned out. So that's the reason. Now, I don't think that's how Mims is going to turn out, because the Bengals actually, if you look at the way they've got things set up, I don't even think they're going to start Mims this year unless somebody gets hurt. That's not the plan. The plan is to kind of redshirt him. But Saban, like, when he said that, I just like laughed out loud. I was like, oh, yeah, that is he's throwing up the red flags.
Yeah, he did, man. And I just think, like, the more that the sports shows are starting to bring in guys with knowledge and letting you see them behind the veil, I think that's super cool. Like, even man, Belichick was going off last night. Like,
Belichick was awesome.
I did not think he was going to mess with the Pat McAfee show that week. I'm like, I saw him a little bit on game day, but I didn't think that, for the entirety of the show that it would have went the way it did. Man, Belichick is like cool. Like, I'm like, hey, bro, like grab a beer type guy. I didn't think that would happen, and I think what they're doing with that is pretty cool.
I thought the McAfee show setup was perfect for Belichick's personality to show what it is, because that's what everybody like who played for him said that's his personality, but he never showed it to you. And I think the fact that they're so relaxed on that show, like they all know each other so well and they're so comfortable around each other, like it brought all of that out of him. The Randy Moss story was spectacular. If you have not seen the clip, it's like 3 minutes. I tweeted it out last night. It is Bill Belichick explaining trading for Randy Moss, and it starts with him calling Al Davis. So you've got Bill Belichick doing an Al Davis impression, and then you've got him talking about Randy Moss's physical when he gets to New England, and Bill Belichick just pretends to put like the hand on the forehead to check the temperature. You're fine. Let's play. Like, it was unbelievable.
Man, it was so good, man. I think like even when he was saying he got hung up on twice, right? He thought it was a prank call. But him impersonating Randy Moss was even better, right? Like, it's just like I had no idea. that Belichick was on my bucket list for guys that I would want to get a beer with, but he is now.
Oh my God. Yeah. And now McAfee says they're going to have him on every Monday during the season. So it's going to be something.
Yeah.
Woo. All right. So we got to go. My mock draft. I got some results here. I put out my first ever mock draft this week. I was bracing for impact. I was waiting for that early trade that would screw everything up. I actually got the first 6 exactly right. So thank you, NFL teams, for not trading in those first few picks. And then, so there were trades after that. One I had predicted that didn't happen, and then a bunch that happened that I had not predicted. But I got 7 more guys with their teams. I just didn't get them in the right slots because their teams move slots. But I had the first 6 right, and then Rome Odunze went to the Bears. J.J. McCarthy went to the Vikings. Brian Thomas Jr. went to the Jags. Mims went to the Bengals. Jared Verse to the Rams. Tyler Guyton to the Cowboys. Darius Robinson to the Cardinals. So, like, the Darius Robinson I was very proud of because I was just looking at their defense, looking at the way they play, and I thought, okay, this was primarily an odd front last year, but they like to show even front. So this 285-pound guy who can rush off the edge, like that can be a 5 technique in your odd front. He can be on the edge in your even front. And I'm like, okay, maybe that works. So I was very pleased. I was very proud of the Amarius Mims one, just because the Bengals tackle situation where they just signed Trent Brown to a 1-year deal. I was like, oh, he's going to learn from Trent Brown. Like, Trent Brown's going to show him what to do. Trent Brown, who has a tattoo of himself in a threesome on his thigh, I believe, is going to show him the ways of the NFL. Right. So that one but man, it was nerve-wracking because once I started getting them wrong, because I didn't like with the offensive tackles, other than Joe Alt, it was kind of the flavor you want. So, like, I didn't know who the Titans were going to pick at tackle. I had them taking Olu Fashanu. They didn't end up taking him. And I was like, I don't know which guy they're going to take. So once I started getting them wrong, I was like, this is bad. But the Joe Alt one I felt good about because I was like, I don't know most of these NFL coaches that well, but I feel like I know Jim Harbaugh. And Jim Harbaugh will build with tackles. And here was Jim Harbaugh talking about drafting Joe Alt.
How easy of a decision was this for you and the club to make?
Yeah, it was a unanimous decision, and it was, like I alluded to earlier, I mean, it was all the work that went in, the player that was on the top of our board. Nobody rated higher than Joe Alt, the player when it came to our selection that we picked. And I know the question is going to come up, and you're going to say, like, what about a weapon? What about offensive linemen? We look at as weapons. That group, when we talk about attacking, and we talk about attacking on offense, offensive line is the tip of the spear.
Offensive linemen are weapons. Let's go.
Yeah, man, you gotta love that, right? Smash mouth football. And then you think about, he got another guy. You got Rashawn Slater already out there from the Big Ten, Northwestern guy that he's very familiar with. So, when you kind of just look at what the Chargers are going to have to do, which is run the ball, they got 2 guys who are serviceable from the Ravens who can run the ball, who has a little bit of injury history. But in order for Justin Herbert to be the best Justin Herbert, he's going to have a dependable run game. And that's something that he hasn't had because usually they were used to swinging the ball out of the backfield and Austin Eckler getting about 100 or 100, a ton of catches every year.
Yeah.
So now being able to have that 8th guy dropped into the box instead of sitting on the perimeter, I think it's going to do a lot for Herbert. I think that was a good pick.
I do too. And I had a Chargers fan, which shockingly they exist, tweet at me, but we still don't have any receivers. I'm like, you pick at 37. You're going to be able to get a receiver you like. We just mentioned Keon Coleman's still out there. We just mentioned A.D. Mitchell's still out there.
Draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen this much receiver talent in a long time. And then I was surprised. I wasn't surprised Ricky Pearsall went that high, but I didn't see him in any mock drafts. That was my guy that I had been tweeting about and just saying, man, look at and reason being, when I was covering Auburn, he was one of the transfer portal targets out of Arizona State before he chose Florida. And so when I went and just looked at him, and I was like, bro, like, this dude is like that. He didn't just do that at Florida. Go look at him in Arizona State. So yeah, Ricky Pearsall is one of my favorite draftees from last night.
Let me read you a list Let me read you a list.
All
Ricky
right.
Pearsall, Jaden Daniels, Brandon Ayuk, who's first-round draft pick, plays for the 49ers right now. Eno Benjamin, who is an excellent college back. Chip Trainum, who is going to be Kentucky's probably number one back this year. Ladarius Henderson, who we're going to hear his name called. He helped Michigan win a national title at left tackle last year. Johnny Wilson, very important player at Florida State, very tall.
Yep.
Rashad White. These are all people who played for Arizona State essentially not all together at the same time, but they all kind of overlapped. Herm Edwards might need to go to jail.
Herm was getting busy, man. Like, yeah, no, that's a ton of talent. That's enough to win. You should have won the Pac-12 with that, right?
How are they not better? Oh my God.
I don't know, man. Like that's crazy. That list was insane. Some of those guys I didn't know about. Like, I'm thinking like, dang, for real, he went there at the end. I totally forgot about Johnny Wilson, right? So if you just think about putting all those guys. They don't even have to be on the same starting 11. Put those guys like in really just the same locker room. All that talent. That picture could rival Ohio State's wide receiver room when you look at that total team and you say, if you just put the NFL jerseys on that Arizona State team a year from now with all those guys, nobody would believe it.
No, exactly. And like Ayuk was leaving as Pearsall was coming in, but the point stands. You went from one first-round receiver to another, and like Johnny Wilson, I don't know where he's going to go. He might be a third or fourth round pick, but he was a really good college player. Like Herm fumbled, as Goat Dog said, Herm fumbled so bad. Yeah, man. So bad.
And it kind of makes me a little bit excited for Dillingham out there because it's got me thinking, well, what if he can figure out that secret sauce to Arizona State, that he has a pretty clear path to having success. Like, we'll see if he can get it done.
That's what everybody said. Like, and if you've ever been to Tempe, you're like, how do they not have the best players in the world here? Because so my old podcast partner, Ari Wasserman, always said, now, Ari grew up in Scottsdale. He went to Arizona, but his whole thing for Arizona and Arizona State is, why do you not just ask the best offensive lineman in the Midwest every year to just take an official visit? Like, you're going to get half of them if you can get them to campus. Like, Tempe's paradise.
In the winter portal, I was with a guy who was I was actually interviewing a guy who was one of the top portal guys last year. And somebody on Arizona State's staff FaceTimed him. And it was probably about 9:00 out on the East Coast, out maybe 6, something like that. And now maybe it's like 8:00 on the East Coast. But he FaceTimes, and all he does is just shows his background. And he says, bro, you ever been to Paradise? He's like, and that's all he said. And then the kid is like, bro, I might got to go to Arizona State, dog. I'm like, I mean, it was that quick. I had no idea it was that pretty out there, bro. Like, I just thought it was just.
And the thing about Tempe, because Tucson is more of a college town, smaller environment, but Tempe is a straight up Phoenix suburb and a very nice Phoenix suburb.
Oh, wow.
Their stadium's built into the side of a mountain. Like, it's cool. That's crazy. It is. It's interesting, but the level of talent that they had there is wild when you really think about it. But I mean, and really, like, I think about the top of the draft. When's the last time we had two back-to-back Heisman Trophy winners drafted?
Man, the Heisman Association is getting it right lately, right?
Well, they were a little late on Reggie, but we'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah, but they've been trying to figure it out, man. I think they want those Wendy's commercials and those and that Nissan commercials to get a little bit better. But I mean, just think about it. Like, when you think about guys who won like in the 2000s, who may have had a ton of college stats but didn't project to the NFL style of play. Now you're starting to see what it tells me is that to be successful on the college level, if you are that successful, a lot of times you're going to have NFL traits. And it lets me know at the level, like, guys aren't just recruiting just to have a college guy. Like, it's almost going to be impossible to win just with having, I got a college guy. For one, you start having to kind of do your roster. You have to recruit with a salary cap, basically. Like, hey,
basically,
I got a guy in this position if I'm going to get this guy this kind of money, not the coach, but the collective, if the collective is going to pay this guy this kind of money, then I need this type of production and I need these type of traits. Well, what do? Well, how is the NFL draft based? Yeah, it's on production and film, but it's also on traits, and that's why we have the combine. And I think like that's why a lot of these camps and these UA camps and verified track times, and I think even sites like On3 where we do have those have such a great rankings team. Shout out to Charles Power, and they do so much of the research that it allows it gives college programs opportunity to recruit in an NFL fashion. And I think that correlation between Heisman Trophy winners and number one picks is just a part of that fruition.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like you mentioned with the salary cap, we talked about this with Cody Blair the other day. Like the college personnel departments are just morphing into NFL personnel departments because they have to.
Sure.
They have to, you have to have the split where you have the people scouting all the other teams and then the people scouting the high schools. And that's just not how it was before. It used to be you had everybody scouting high schools and that was it. But yeah, you got to be able to find your Jaden Daniels, your Ricky Pearsall, your Johnny Wilson out of the transfer portal, which they were all in it. Nine transfers in the first round. There were 4 last year. It's going to be more next year, I'm assuming.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
yeah, I think, and just to kind of piggyback on that point about college front offices being ran like, college administrative staffs being ran front offices. Imagine you spend $1 million on a quarterback and miss. That money isn't coming from. It's coming from a collective. It's not coming from ticket sales. It's not coming from jersey sales. So imagine having a guy that gives you $1 million or gives you the lion's shares portion of that. Of his NIL deal, and you miss on it. Imagine how hard it's going to be to get him to donate again next year.
Exactly. Now that's probably going to change. Where it probably is going to be coming from ticket sales. But you're right. Like this is another reason why that whole system's not sustainable. Because you think about like imagine if in the NFL the salary had to come from like a couple of rich fans.
Right.
Like what do you think would have happened in the Falcons draft last night?
Man, last night, what? The lights would have been cut off at the Dome, dog. They would have cut this. They would have cut it out, dog. Think about like how we always hear about boosters influencing programs and you didn't hire this guy, so we're not going to give you money. If they did that in the NFL, there wouldn't be an NFL, and I think that's why that model is unsustainable.
It is crazy. So the next thing we got to talk about is I want to ask you about Nate Wiggins specifically because this is a guy that you've known since he was very young in high school. You covered his recruitment to Clemson. What is it like when you see that happen? When you see all of that come to fruition, where it's a guy you met, maybe was a freshman in high school, and you see that guy picked in the first round?
Man, it's like being from Atlanta. Like now, the flip side of being a Falcons fan is also you're from Atlanta. There's a ton of talent here. But Nate is one of those guys who really, like when you say got it out of the mud, he really did. Being from the area that he's from, he transferred over to Westlake High School. Had a really, was a really good wide receiver as well. Had top end speed. Everybody always worried, was he going to be big enough? Then he had caught a growth spurt. He got to that height, and he's one of those guys you always follow. Now he played on the Westlake team that had about 5 or 6 guys who went Power 5, but he was always special. When you saw get to Clemson early on, you saw some of that Atlanta, that fire come out of him. And I think Clemson did a good job of kind of tempering that down and showing him as a cornerback, you got to forget that last play. But just to see it all come to fruition, he had a big party at this spot called the bank that's on Bankhead Highway. A big party last night. You probably saw him flash to it with a who's who of people in the city. And it wasn't just because everybody knew him. It's because everybody was proud. And I think being a child of the city, when we say a child of the city, has touched different parts, not just from College Park, not just from the West Side. It makes us all feel good, and we'll be rooting for the Ravens.
So there were 13 guys in the green room. They all got drafted, by the way. There was none of this, Will Levis shot of here's the guy in the green room. But there were a lot of remote parties. Guys that got drafted in the first round. Which party did you most want to be at? When you saw those parties flash on the screen, which party did you most want to be at?
My man, Olu. You know why?
That's what I was going to say. Olu Foxnew.
Yeah, you know why? Because I would have went straight over there and said, Mama, you missed your calling. You would have been a power forward in the WNBA the way you blocked this girl out. I don't know if you guys, when you saw the girlfriend, she was trying to get a hug. Olu's mama was boxing her out, and every time it's like, you know how they say in the NFL, like, hey, or excuse me, when they say in the NBA, man, get them on your back. But that's exactly what she did, man. She got that back in the way, and every time the girlfriend tried to reach over for a hug, she boxed her out again, man. It was hilarious.
Oh, it was perfect technique. It was perfect technique. There was no foul would have been called. Like, yeah, it was like, she just backed her out.
Yeah, it was hilarious. I would have loved to be a fly on the wall at that party. Would have been great.
Well, and that video caused everybody to retweet the Isaiah Wilson video from a few years earlier, where the Isaiah Wilson one is the girlfriend is hugging on him, I think sitting in his lap, and mom comes up and picks the girlfriend up and just moves her. Like, you are over here now.
Hey, the draft is crazy, man. Oh, okay, best one. CD Lamb's girlfriend tries to pick up the phone, and he's just like, no. I mean, he's on the phone probably with the Cowboys at the time. She's trying to pick up the phone. Talk about multitasking. Talking about a guy who can run an option route. Well, he ran one in, like, and maybe that helped him be so good. And you also saw that he's good with his right and his left.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Well, and Tyler Guyton. That party Tyler Guyton's party was a little more casual, which I appreciate. Right. Like, I don't want something fancy. I don't feel like I need to go anywhere. I just want my best people around, and I can hug. Like that, the hugs at the Tyler Guyton, and I think a lot of it was he's going to the Cowboys. Like, we're all going to be able to watch him play. Like, he's home. This is going to be fun. But that was fun because those were the hardest hugs of the night.
Yeah, man.
I love a family that hugs like that.
Yeah, man. It's like genuine love, man. Like, we like everybody's happy. You know, there's and of course with the draft, there's just this big anxiety of finding out where you're actually going, and then when that moment is over with, you see those hugs, those sighs of relief, and then everybody's like, "Whoo, we did it!" And everybody had good size too, man. So those are pretty strong and physical hugs.
Oh yeah, the genes were real good, and that's kind of what the story of Tyler Guyton, like, it's the genes so far, because we're waiting he's not played offensive line that long. He's sort of growing into it, and we'll see if he can develop into an NFL offensive tackle. But yeah, he's from Manor, Texas, which is near Austin, and so they just a short drive up to Dallas for the whole family to watch him play. That's pretty crazy. I did love, Olu's mom. You see where Olu gets it from. The girl probably needed to run the arc there. She should have taken some tips from Chop Robinson, who probably could have helped her a little bit. I do wonder, like, does Chop Robinson text her after he sees that? Chop's busy waiting to get drafted himself. But does he text her like, hey, listen, when I was trying to get around a member of the Fashanu family, this is what I did.
Maybe next time try to jab step and come back with a little lower bend. You'll be fine. Like,
yeah, a little speed to power. A little speed to power. All right. Before we go, we got to talk about what's left. Who's your favorite? Like, who do you think comes off immediately? And we talked about receivers. I want to reiterate, if you want a first round quality corner, which, by the way, those are usually hard to get, Cooper DeJean and Kool-Aid McKinstry are still there. Like, the picks 33 through 40 are gonna be popping.
Yeah, I think, man, I probably go with either Cooper or Keon Coleman, just based on the fact Cooper's so athletic, man. I felt we talked about, like, the other day on 3. I think Shannon tweeted out. Everybody was going off about highlight tapes. His basketball highlight tape is so freaky. It's 60 dunks. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when you look at he has really top end athleticism. He proved it at his pro day, and you just saw it just pop up. I wish and I think he probably if he would have been able to run at the combine. I don't think he ran at the combine. I think if he
didn't. Yeah,
I think if he does that at the combine, it's a little bit different. And people, I mean, look, bro. The elephant in the room, bro.
Go ahead.
You probably haven't seen a white cornerback like this since Jason Seymour.
Cooper DeJean is white. What?
Yeah, man.
So his comp is Jason Sehorn, right?
Man, like, so, it's like probably a little bit of trepidation.
That's my favorite. We must, with the comps, we must match colors.
Yeah, man, it's like, right. We haven't seen one since then, but when you really look at it, bro, like, man, there's so many more guys. Like, he reminds me really, truly, like, of a taller version of Brent Grimes. Like, Grimes was so athletic, even being in a compact shape. He's one of those guys that can reach and high point the ball, and I think he excels with that. And when you saw Brent Grimes catch the ball after an interception, or if he ever served in that punt returning capacity, you saw him get busy, and I think that's a lot of the same thing that Cooper DeJean has. And he's probably my most. If I have the pick 33, I think, or pick 32, whatever it is. If I had that top pick, I'm going with him.
Well, and the thing is, you get, like you said, you get the corner skills, but you also get the punt return out of him too. So there's a lot of value in that pick. Also, a lot of Tory Taylor. We're talking Iowa guys still on the board. Yeah, I'm telling Tory Taylor's going on. Tory Taylor might go tonight. We have the second and third rounds. Tory Taylor might be a third rounder. Ferris in the chat. Terrion Arnold in the middle of the Detroit defense will be fire. I will say, Terrion Arnold getting picked by the Lions in Detroit and getting to introduce himself to Lions fans, like, you will love this person so much, Lions fans, because he is a face of the franchise kind of player. His personality is incredible. He's funny as hell. He's been on this show a couple times, like, cracked us up when we had him on the show. I cannot wait to see him in that defense.
Yeah, Detroit. I mean, he was probably the perfect pick for Detroit. Even when he opens up the suit and he's got the pictures in there, that was him, right?
No, that was Brian. That was Malik Nabers. And actually, let's talk about Malik Nabers' suit, because we talked about we got a preview of Malik Nabers' suit on the show. Let's see that video of this suit, because it is pretty impressive. He opens up the jacket and it's got the photos of his entire career in there,
man.
And then but we got a preview of that because when we had Cortez Hankton Jr., the LSU receivers coach, on the show, he explained the suits that Malik and Brian Thomas Jr. will be wearing. Now, where you're going to be next Thursday night is the draft green room. That is a very high-profile place, lots of cameras, lots of eyes. Do we have our suit ready yet?
Oh, we ready. We ready. Malik and BT, they're both ready. And look, so here's the deal. It all started off last year before the season started. And let's say on the Tiger Walk, the boys, they dress to impress. And so I try to compete with them a little bit. Well, Malik, basically, we make a deal. Yeah, he says, Coach, if I go first round, are you gonna hook me up? Are you gonna buy me a suit? And without a doubt, I said, man, look, you do that, we're gonna get it done. And so he made it happen, had a big year, and so I made sure I held up to my end of the deal. And in the midst of that, I said, you know what, BT, since you joining the party, then we're gonna go ahead and hook you up too. So shout out to Johnny Mac Taylor that's been hooking me up for a while. It has taken care of those guys, and man, I'm looking forward to how good they're gonna look in their draft suits.
So this will be no 2003 NBA draft.
No, we're not gonna have
a big fabric. This is gonna look good.
Like my guys from New Orleans. No, we're not gonna have a big Wody suits. We're gonna have some clean, tailored, Italian tapered, type fashion going on draft day.
Listen, Cortez Hankton hooked it up. Brian Thomas looked great too.
Yeah. But that's tough. That's tough, man. Golly.
I want a jacket with the pictures in it. Like,
man, what's the first picture you put in?
I think, that's a good question. I think I'm going with, I probably just put pictures of my kids in there. Yeah. Like, I'd be just that dad, just like, whoop, there you go. This is when my daughter was Wednesday Addams for Halloween.
Hey, look, imagine being a single, and not saying you are, imagine being a single dad at the bar, and then somebody walks up like, well, how many kids do you have? You go, whoop,
boom, right here.
Baby.
I'm telling you, that's the way to do it. People used to keep pictures in their wallets, just put it in your jacket.
Yeah,
but yeah,
sure, man. I love it.
They look good. Willie in the chat says, just wait till the Lions draft Braden Fisk. The Lions don't pick again until 61, Willie. So they better trade up if they want Braden Fisk. But Terrion Arnold and Braden Fisk together with Dan Campbell, like personality-wise,
Oh man,
that's a beautiful thing.
man, low key, like the Lions probably became my second team last year. Like just the energy that they have, seeing something good happen for a city that has a history sort of like the Falcons. When you think about everything they went through, two of their megastars retiring early just because of futility. Then you trade Matthew Stafford away, who kind of suffered with you, and he goes and wins the Super Bowl. It's just like, bro, like, so seeing them do well and actually draft well. And after Dan Campbell, when he came in there and he was saying all of that stuff he was saying, and the pundits were like, is he professional? And, is that the type of guy you want leading your team? And seeing it work, man, much respect and much love to the Lions.
Yeah, so our friend of the show, Billy Lucci from TexAgs.com, Dan Campbell's college roommate. So,
oh, wow.
Billy told us what to expect with Dan Campbell, and he has not disappointed in the least. He's been exactly what Billy said he would be, and it's been so much fun to watch. I do want to hit a little bit of college football news with you, because this is one that happened in the state where you live, and we talked about it on yesterday's show, and then the situation changed almost immediately after the show ended. We were talking about Kristen Miller saying he was going to go into the transfer portal on Wednesday night. On Thursday morning, he's like, I'm good. So this Georgia defensive tackle. And so I've been trying to explain to the folks during this spring portal, like when a player of consequence talks about entering the portal, that's when we get our ears up. And so like Dylan Edwards coming from Colorado, that was kind of one, because he was definitely a guy they had plans for this year in their offense. But Kristen Miller was an important player for Georgia. And you're like, oh man, he's going to the portal. Well, now he's not.
Yeah. I mean, I think whatever the dispute was, he may have had a conversation with the collective that didn't go well at first. And then I think that's when he got in the portal, the conversation changed. I mean, I'm just purely speculation, but reading the tea leaves, I think that's what it is. And then two, when somebody goes in the spring portal from the SEC, you really got to be mad, because you don't have those options in the SEC. So if you're an SEC guy, especially if you're highly rated and you become accustomed to what goes along with being an SEC football player, if you're willing to leave that, you got to be pissed. And I think that he was willing to leave, and you saw all I saw was Southern Cal tweets. Bring them home. We need them. You could see it, So I just think I figure they made a really good business decision. I'd say that.
Well, and that's the thing. That's where Georgia is in a situation where they have a lot of really good players that they have to pay to retain. Yeah. And there are going to be situations where maybe somebody's not making what their market value is. And right now, the market for defensive tackles is hotter than anything else. And it's funny, though, because I laugh when I see people say they get mad when somebody's leaving Georgia or Alabama in this kind of situation. And I'm like, y'all bitched about having no parity for how long? How do you think parity happens?
I mean, if all of the 4 and the 5 stars go to the same school, who you think is going to be good? I think I saw a stat
exactly.
I think they said over 70% of the first round was 4 and 5 stars. Like, bro, like it's simple math. So when it comes down to it, there is a method to the madness that we do call recruiting, which I talk about a lot on the 5-star flex, and where I talk to a lot of the players, and you can hear it. NIL is important, and if you don't get those situations correct, then you watch a portion of your production go to another team. Well, in this 12-team playoff, you could be seeing this guy this year, regardless of what conference you're in. So I think Georgia did figure that out, and they figured it out fast.
Yeah, very smart business. And look, we just saw Marius Mims go in the first round. He actually did enter the transfer portal. Looked like he was going to go to Florida State, and they got him back and wound up getting a very good offensive tackle that they needed for this past year. So
bank robbery with no mask, plain sight, plain face. Hey man, give it up. That's exactly what he did. He went down.
That's exactly right.
Give it up. All right, Jay, I'm back. That's how it happens.
Yeah, no, but that one, I think Georgia needed that one back, and they got him back. And this is part of the game too. We have not seen a lot of that. We saw it with Bear Alexander, who left Georgia for USC, threatened to go in the transfer portal, did not this year. So, yeah, we can't do that because we have contracts.
I think Georgia could afford to lose Miller just based on how their defense was last year. When you look at what they lost that linebacker, Yep, last year they started the season with Xavier Sword and Pop Dumas. Both of those guys are gone because you got those young studs and Raylan Wilson and C.J. Allen to play alongside Smile Monday, who's coming off an injury. But if the defensive line doesn't do their job, it doesn't matter how good you are on the second level. Everybody talks about the linebacker core that they had when they had my man from the Packers, Nakobe Dean and Channing
Quay
Tindall.
Walker, Nakobe Dean,
Quay, Dean, and Tindall, right? But look what they had in front of them. You had you had Jordan Davis. Then you had a young Jalen Carter to mix in with some of these guys.
Trayvon Walker.
Come on, bro. Trayvon Walker, bro. Like, so yeah, that's why they look so. Now, not to take anything away, because Quay is showing you who he is. And then, but when you think about it, like, that's what makes the defense go at Georgia. I think Christian Miller and his family understood that.
Yeah. So congrats to you, young man.
Yes,
Hope
sir.
you buy something nice or put it in a nice CD, like the $5 Phillip Dukes gave that guy. So we come full circle here. That's right. All right. I'm going to leave it with this. The floor is yours, Mr. Dukes. Anything else you need to say to Arthur Blank, to Terry Fontenot, to Raheem Morris, and the Falcons Brain Trust? What else you got?
Look, man, Arthur, I love you, baby. Listen, you got to start putting your foot down ahead of time. All right. Now, I know that everybody's coming out saying it was you. I saw the way you looked at Terry Fontenot in his eyes. They pulled the wool over your eyes. You thought something else was happening. I see it. Look at it. The finger point. Hey, man, yeah, I see that, Arthur. I noticed that energy. Today, going forward, we can deal with the Penix pick because he's pretty good. We can deal with it. But today, if they do any of that weird, you know what, today, you got to put your foot down and be willing to fire them on the spot. If I see a punter go in the second round, somebody's fired. If I see another tight end in the third round, somebody's getting fired. And we better draft somebody on the defense that can start by the end of the day. If not, heads got to roll, Arthur. I got your back, man. I'm in College Park. Call me. I'll call my cousin.
That's all you need. Also, Michael Penix, Magic City Lemon Pepper Wings invitation is open.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Mike, whatever you want to do, bro, call me. I know where to go. We're going through the back door for sure. Shout out to Wolf at Magic City, man. My dog Wolf, for sure.
That's why he's the best. Dukes, thank you so much. Thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for watching. We'll be back on Monday, and we'll be talking about everybody else who got picked in the draft. Talk to you on Monday.